Hey guys, it's Ebony with another episode of R&B Vibes, and this one's truly meaningful in my heart. It's such a moving episode because I'm obsessed. Jamila Woods, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I told you let's not do that. Listen. I warned you. I warned you, y'all. When I tell you, I've listened to you for a while. And my first song to you was Black Girl Soldier. I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
That was the first song I ever heard by you, okay? And I still, to this day, sing it in my head. Like, I sing it all the time. It's a great moving song, but it also is a great introduction to you. You
Mm.
are one that celebrates Black women, Black femininity, and so much more. Have you always been that type of person?
That's a good question. Well, I know there's a lot of Black women in my life who, I wouldn't be who I am without them. My mom, my grandma were both very present. I say my grandma's name a lot in my songs, Joycetta, and she's
Mhm.
always like, "Why are you talking about me?" But she likes it. But yeah, like I really think I'm very inspired by the way that Black women care for their communities. And that song in particular was inspired by the a movement that started in Chicago after a Black woman who was the same age as me, really close to where I live now, was killed by an off-duty police officer. And it was the Black women in the Black Lives Matter community who were organizing in Chicago, who were at the forefront of, making sure that her name wasn't forgotten. So that was the inspiration behind that song. But I do think, throughout my whole life, a lot of the people I look up to have been Black women.
See, I think that for me, it took a journey and understanding for me to get to that place where it's not just, "Oh, I'm a Black woman." It's the power of being a Black woman and
Mm.
understanding that. Was there a particular journey that you had to go through in order for you to appreciate your Black womanhood? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I come from a particular area in Chicago on the south. When you think of the south side of Chicago, you think of Black people, that's largely true. But where I grew up, my family was one of the only Black families. So I definitely grew up in classroom spaces, in community spaces where I was the only Black person. And I
Mm,
think that definitely caused me to always feel like I wasn't, a certain type of Black. Like, when I would go to church with my grandma, I would feel like I'm out of place, and so I think it took me a long time to kind of come into what does my Blackness, what does my femininity mean to me? And really, Zora Neale Hurston has a beautiful quote where she talks about, I feel most colored when I'm thrown against a white background, but then I feel most colored when like I'm in a group of Black people and I hear their laughter and like I join in on that. And so I think it's both. Like I've definitely learned my identity through difference, but I've also learned it in moments where I've, found community with other people who I see myself in. Um, so yeah, I think I'm still on the journey, always, discovering new parts of myself. But one of the most important things I've learned is just that, you know, you can still be a part of an identity even if your way of expressing it looks different from those around you.
it's such a spiritual thing with you. I swear, when you talk, it's just like she's getting you from the roots. Now, who taught you how to be that way? How to be so transparent in a way that is that's deeply rooted? It was your mom, your grandmom. Did they talk like that? Did they have that type of awareness?
Hmm. Well, I know, like, my mom always she's very spiritual. Yeah, she's always been doing, like, different things, like Reiki, meditation, talking to guardian angels, and meanwhile, my grandma's, like, in the Baptist church, so I have, like, these like I was saying, like, there's 2 very different examples of Black femininity just in my house growing up. So yeah, I think that did give me a sense of permission to explore, like explore what spirituality means to me. And I think when I try to, think about your questions or answer them, I do feel like I kind of just go into a space of just channeling a lot of wisdom that I've gathered from other people. And
Mm,
I'm also I've taught a lot in high school and like community poetry spaces. I came up in those spaces, and then I became like a teaching artist and leader in those spaces. And my students always tease me. They're like, "You're gonna tell us about a quote you heard, or like a, you're gonna tell us about some book we gotta read." I'm like, yeah, like I do feel like I'm kind of like a librarian or like an archive of these thoughts. And there's actually a book that they actually talk about one of my albums, Legacy, but the whole thesis of her book is that Black women are archives, and we are
Mm.
the people in our communities who kind of tell the stories and keep the wisdom and pass it down.
No, you're absolutely right. When they talk to you about, okay, I'm gonna get a quote. I'm over here. I'm not gonna ask the question. She's gonna tell me all the answers. It's just be quiet. She's got it. She got the mic. She's gonna tell you the answer to life. It's gonna be okay. Making sure I'm good. But you talk about, of course, also Chicago. I've never been to Chicago personally. It's crazy. My
Mm.
stepdad, he's from there. Tell me about Chicago.
Yeah, I loved how you were just describing Nashville as a place where in the creative community people all want to like work together,
Mhm.
collaborate. That's very much like Chicago. I think because we don't have as much like industry infrastructure as like in New York or LA. Everyone does like a billion things. Like they're like, ah, I'm a rapper and I'm a filmmaker and I'm a producer and I cook. Everyone's like so multi-talented and down to collaborate. That's one of the things I love about Chicago. There's a lot of like community art spaces. And so I think that's one of the things that allowed me to become a musician, because I started out, I always loved singing as a kid, but then I got really into spoken word poetry. And a lot of the spoken word open mics were the places where I end up meeting other musicians and other producers that I end up making my first album with. So because there's all this like cross pollination in the creative scene, it's like a really vibrant place for artists and just people who want to start something, because there's always going to be somebody who's like, yeah, I'll do that with you. I'll try it.
Yeah, it's good to always collaborate because you know that another person's perspective on a song or to a particular project can bring a little more insight to what the full idea was. You know, we all have our own initiative, but when you grab somebody else's perspective, you can gain a whole nother understanding of how that purpose, that mission can be accomplished. So I love doing a collaborative space. I love being in it. Now, you talk about Chicago with pride and you talk about authors and writing and poetry. Tell me about the power of poetry and what do words mean to you?
Mm. Yeah, I love poetry so much, and me and my friend talk about a lot like the etymology of the word poetry. It comes from a word that means to make. So I really think of everything that I do as a poem, like whether I'm writing a song, whether I'm like cooking dinner, it's just like the act of making. And for me, poetry helps me make sense of my emotions, helps me make sense of the world around me. And I was lucky to find it as a teenager growing up, and I didn't feel like I fit in to my high school. I didn't feel like I fit in my neighborhood, but when I went to poetry programs, everyone was that weird person. So it was like all the weird people came together and we felt at home, and we were able to first it was the first time I felt like I was speaking when I was on the open mics, and everyone was quiet and just like hanging on to my every word. And
Mm.
as like a young person, that was just so powerful. And I never stopped ever since then. My life kind of shifted, and I only cared about, when I was going to college, I was like, is there a poetry scene there? I was like always thinking about it. So
But it's
yeah.
great to, be someone that's so into words because I feel like today's music, sometimes we lose the importance to know what you're saying versus just
Mm,
say it. So to have someone, an artist that is so particular about what she says and then how she pronounces or say it, it brings back that core meaning that, hey, don't just speak it, understand it. Be more versatile in your usage of the language because you want to be careful of what you give out. You want to be careful of what you mean, what you say. Um, I'm
yes.
curious. I'm curious who inspires you. Like, what type of artists inspire your music?
Mm. That's a really good question. I love like one of my first loves is Erica Badu, which I think, everyone can,
Yep.
says that a lot. She's
Yes.
iconic. I was just watching some of her live videos earlier today. I think her words also, like she's definitely a poet. And her voice, I love it when you can tell that an artist has completely embraced their voice and what it can do. Because I think for a long time I grew up singing in choirs and
Mhm.
I would always like admire the soloist's voice and be like, oh, I gotta like try to sing like that. Or I loved Whitney Houston, be like, oh, I wish I could sing like that. Versus like, discovering what the powers of my own voice are and writing songs to fit my own voice for my own voice to sing. So I love it when, I love artists like that. I love Imogene Heap. That was one of my favorite artists when I first got GarageBand. I was like doing the looping and like auto tuning, trying to make songs like her. And then I also love like Stevie Wonder, like just the music my parents listened to. Stevie Wonder has an album that I don't think is his most popular, but it was like one of my parents' favorite called Conversation Piece.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of like bops on the, like they sound really good and almost joyful, but if you listen to the lyrics, they're actually telling like a really sad story or like a story of, a loss in the community. And I think I love making music like that too, like where it just sounds good if you're not paying attention, but then if you actually go a layer deeper, there's something, a little bit more serious going on. So, yeah, those are some of my favorites.
You know, you have to get that off there, the Erykah Badu, what's it called? Similarity, because you really
Comparison.
do. Yeah, girl, I swear
Yeah.
it's scary, but you really do give off that energy. How does that feel to be compared or to be in that like as, title with her?
I love it. I think she evolves so much. So it's like being compared to an ever-moving target. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the best type of person to be compared to.
Well, I think that you give off that energy very well, and I know that you probably give it off, like you said before, to the kids that you work with. Why is it
Mm.
so important to work with kids and to also teach poetry and the sounds of music with young, students? Why is that important for you?
I realized this in the pandemic when I kind of stopped teaching for a while and was more, onto myself. That it was an important thing for me to do is kind of focus on myself a bit more, but I also realized it feeds my creative practice so much to teach and to work with young people because they're just honest. They're just tapped into like the energy that's coming next. So it's always inspiring to hear like what they're listening to, what they're thinking about. And when I was writing my second album, I would bring in the songs like when they were just drafts and be like, what do y'all think of this? Like, let's write kind of inspired by this. And it just helped me get feedback on my songs. And I feel like as a poet, you're used to getting feedback. At least I always had like coaches and mentors giving me notes. As a musician, you don't so much. That's not built into being a musician. Like you go in
Mm.
the studio and people just write and they don't always sit in a circle and share their songs and give each other feedback. So for me, like my students were that space. And I love now some of my students are older and some of them have gone into music as well, and I love hearing their music and just seeing how our creativity can evolve and influence each other has been one of the best things about, teaching and working with young people.
Now, every student is a star. Every student is a beautiful, gem. But is there one student or a situation that really stuck out to you that was like, okay, this is a pivotal moment? Is there a particular situation that comes to mind?
So many. She's like a sister to me, like her name is Iman Loren, and she was, she kind of graduated high school early and she was in the mentorship program that I led, and we just really connected, and now she's leading her own like space and doing her own mentorship program, and she also has a podcast called The Real Hood Wives of Chicago, and she's just keying on there interviewing poets and musicians from Chicago. And yeah, I've just loved watching her go from being like on the open mic to being my, kind of student to like, creating her own spaces in the world. So that's been really great to see. Also, Kara Jackson just put out an album that's amazing. And they're like blowing up. She's incredible. She plays guitar and sings and was also the poet laureate, youth poet laureate of Chicago. So yeah, I'm proud of all of them. They're doing
It's so
amazing.
funny when you say, the Real Hood Wives of Chicago?
Yes.
You know that sounds like a show on VH1, right? It
Yeah,
really
I think
does.
that's the
It
idea.
sounds like it's gonna be a really good show. It's gonna be a
Mhm.
really great show, but
Spicy.
spicy. So, okay, so there's definitely a lot of drinks being thrown in somebody's face. A lot of
Exactly.
drinks.
Yes.
But it's good to see your students, I mean, be able to talk to them and teach them, and then all of a sudden, though that learning that you gave them, all that knowledge that you was able to provide, them utilize it for themselves and become this whole different person. You're like, "Whoa." And
Mhm.
we forget how much our kids are sponges and how
Mm.
much they really do soak in what you teach them. So, I feel like you're very mindful of that. You're very mindful of what you provide and what you give out, because not just kids, but everybody. We soak up what we're attaining, and it does have a reflection upon ourselves. So how does that help you when it comes to writing music? How do you think about how people are gonna soak up your knowledge, soak up your songs, and how do you like think about that when it comes to putting it out?
Yeah. I definitely think about that a lot, especially, my first 2 albums when I was actively teaching and going into schools a lot. And I started to realize because I have a song called Holy. It kinda samples a gospel song, and it
Sorry, I
just
just love
talks
that song.
about
That's my song. My
Yeah.
bad. Go ahead, my bad.
And yeah, one of the lyrics is just like, "Woke up this morning with my mind set on loving me." And I remember one time I was performing it for, like, 4th graders or something, and one of them was like, "How do you do it? Like, how do you love yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I don't already do that. I wrote this song so that I could sing it every day to get closer and closer, like." And so, yeah, I think of my lyrics often as, like, an aspirational place, and when I sing the
Okay.
song, I get to inhabit that space. So hopefully more and more of my days, I'm in that space.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. I never thought about that because I thought that's what I thought. I was like, "Oh, she already learned that?
Yeah, no.
Cool." So, my next question, how do you pen? Well, how do you do that? Let's write it down because but I'm so happy you touched on that song. That's one of my I swear when it comes to do my research, all I could do is keep on writing songs and how much I love them. And when it comes to Holy, that is what I wrote. Woke up this morning, my mindset on loving me. Like I that is such an iconic type of phrase or saying. And as I'm watching this video, I'm like, how does she do it? I'm still trying to figure that out. And then it's not
Mm,
trying to allow the negative perspectives of the world around me. Especially that's as soon as you wake up, that's when you start thinking about all the things that happened yesterday, all the things you're about to go see and be a part of or go do or who you're going to talk to. And it starts to weigh on you how much
mm,
you're not ready for it, how much you
mm,
rather will stay in the bed versus deal with the reality that you're in. So for you to at that particular time say, "I made up my mind. Imma love me today." It's so
mhm.
powerful. It's so powerful.
Thank you so much.
No,
Yeah,
I hate you. I can't do this with you no more. And,
Hey.
another song I wanna talk about is Giovanni.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
tell me about, collaborating with the different women in the video. Who were those women?
Oh, I love that video so much. That was my first time co-directing a video. So it's my one of my muses, I call her. Her name's Po Chop, and she's a burlesque dancer and also a poet, and she has her own space in Chicago called House of the Lord, inspired by Audre Lorde. She's dancing in the video. My hairdresser, Moji, she's been braiding my hair and she locked my hair. She's featured in there. My grandma, Joycetta,
Yes,
she's in
Motherwood.
there. My mom is in there too.
Mhm.
She's at the very end. Yeah, there might be oh, Dominique, my friend Dominique, she used to box. So I was like, I need you in here
Yeah, she
boxing.
was, definitely giving me I'm about to beat the hell out of the cameraman vibes, but she was gorgeous with it. I was like, "Whoever is behind the camera, you're gorgeous. You're gonna be beautiful for the black guy, but she is definitely gonna give you a black guy." And then who was which one was the girl with the head wrap?
Oh, that's Iman, who I was talking
That's
about,
Iman.
Real Hood Wives. Yeah.
God bless her. Like,
Yes. She is iconic.
She is, and I swear, like now I'm seeing it. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be a VH1 special. Get ready for it, y'all. Coming out in October. As that's what's gonna happen. But also, it was you had the words. You had your grandmother. I think it was your mom's name on
Yeah.
you. Was there
Yeah,
other words on there?
I had both my grandmother's names on my face, and also like I got these temporary tattoos of like their handwriting.
Mm.
And it was like some card that my grandma had written me. Yeah, I basically wanted to make a collage on my face. The video is very inspired by collage, and yeah, one of my mentors, Krista Franklin, is a collage artist, so I was trying to bring that into the video. Yeah, and it's that video that I mean that whole song is inspired by Nikki Giovanni's poem Ego Trippin', which she wrote for Black women because she was like she's kind of like a hip hop poet. Like she loves hip hop, and she's like hip hop gives a lot of praise for Black men, but I want to write this poem for Black women. And so I wrote that song inspired by her poem.
Can you give? I know this is kind of off the cuffs, but can you give a quick like excerpt from that poem?
Oh yeah. Um, I'm gonna have to Google it real quick though.
You're good.
Okay.
And at
It's a
this part, this is
classic.
intermission. This is where y'all play music. We go get popcorn. Just go ahead. It's okay. We're gonna come right back. She's gonna be right here. We're just gonna give a little quick excerpt because this all matters.
Yes. It's called Ego Trippin'. There May Be a Reason Why by Nikki Giovanni. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine perfect light. I am bad.
I'm obsessed. Can we?
So good.
What did that writing that poem, writing that song in favor of that poem, was it a cleansing moment? Was it a moment of clarity? What was that moment for you?
Mm, it was it was actually from a prompt that I had done in the classroom about like doing a cover, like
Hmm.
how in music we always cover other people's songs, but I was like, let's cover this, let's cover a poem that you like. So I was like, let me try that. So it was really like trying to, in this poem, I didn't even get to some of those parts, but it's like so hyperbolic. She's
Hmm.
like, I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. Like I cried and it became the tears of the Nile River. Like everything about her is becomes massive. And so I wanted to try to do that with my own language. Like, oh, you might want to hold my comb just because it's touched my hair. It must be, magic now. Like, like all these lyrics that kind of build me up. Exactly. So that when I sing the song, I can feel that way.
See, I
Yeah.
took it as very cleansing because it's a wash over. That's how I kind of took the song
Hmm.
and listened to it, and I appreciate that one. And I love your newest album, by the way. We
Thank
got to get
you.
into Water Made Us. What does that mean? Water made us. Give me that meaning behind that.
Yes. I'm very obsessed with the idea of water and the image of water. And on this album, I was really thinking about water as a symbol for our emotions in a lot of, in a lot of imagery and um stories. Like water kind of symbolizes depth and like the depth inside ourselves. And also, Toni Morrison has a quote where she talks about water having a perfect memory, and all writers are like water, trying to like travel back to like the source of where we came from and all the things that made us. And I was really thinking about like the relationships and the loves that I've had in my life and how those have made me the person that I am. So it's a lot of love songs, a lot of relationship songs on this album, but also the lessons that I've learned from those things, like the lessons about how I operate and some of the things that, if you talk to people who have been with me, they'd be like, these are some things. But and the lessons I've learned with how to kind of greet those things and work with those things. And yeah, yeah, there's a lot of wisdom that I've gotten from experience and from talking to my therapist interwoven in the
Therapy
album.
works. Therapy
It
works. It
does.
helps. It's very helpful. With those relationship songs, songs like Boomerang, songs like Still, gotta give you a shout out. That music video for Still, it is one of this of a kind. Like, I've never. I was looking at it, I'm like, this girl, first of all, came up with her own dance, love it, and then it was the imagery from the courts around you to you walking outside to you even having this, I don't know, televised? What is this man? What was he it was like,
Oh,
what is this? I don't know how satellite, I don't know how to describe it, but it
he
was
his
help
his
me out.
name was, Absence, that's his character, because he was supposed to be, like the song is about, like, a past lover that you can't stop thinking about, so he's like a static
Yeah.
man,
It was
and he's
perfect. I just didn't know what to call him. I was like, "Girl, I don't know, 3D telepathy? I don't know," but he was great. He was an awesome character, by the way. Shout out to Absence. But we really do forget how much when you create a soul tie with someone, it can actually leave a little of a residual on you, whether good or bad,
Mhm.
and it stays in your head. You can still feel them, you can still hear them, and you kind of miss them regardless of the
Yeah,
situation. You end up missing them. So was there a particular person that song was inspired by?
definitely, yeah, I think I was in a really long relationship for, like, 7 years, and again, that song still it was kind of about the frustratingness of when you have that soul tie with someone, when you kinda wanna be over them, but you're not
Mm,
yet. And then also on the album, there's a poem that I wrote from, like, further along in the healing process, because I feel like I got to a place where I could actually look back on certain relationships and feel nostalgia or feel like appreciative of them. And so there's a poem called I Miss All My Exes. And I feel like those two pieces go hand in hand, just like different points in the journey of like after love and healing from it and becoming, accepting of what it is that happened
yeah, when
between
I
you
heard
guys.
"I Miss My Exes," I was like, so I they none of those in everything that you're describing is not none of my exes. However, can that be my future? Because I want someone, if you can tell me you're going to sit there and listen to me talking about something that you probably don't care about, but you're just listening to me because 'cause you're there. You wanna be able to bring some salads to my mom, like, I'm like, "Yes." So, if that was your exes, wait a minute, can we find these dudes? That's amazing. But it's great. It's
You
great to me,
know,
like, because
it's a
how
little
did they
rosy.
oh, it's a little rosy. Oh, Lord.
No, but it's good though. It's all true. It's all true. And I do miss them. But
See,
it's
that's
good that they're
different.
over there and I'm over here, you know?
Amen. It's different. You never hear somebody say, "I miss my exes," but I guess you miss them, but yet you appreciate what you learned from them. You learn, the
Mhm.
different perspectives. I am so obsessed by you. It's every time you say another title, I'm like, "I know that, and I love that," and I just it's crazy. Tell me about a Tiny Garden. I wanna know
Mm.
what is the meaning behind that one, and where'd you come up with Tiny Garden?
Yes, so that one is one of those songs that's really trying to make a language for patterns that I notice in myself. So I noticed that I'm not usually the person that has like, "Oh my god, like, I'm in love with this person, I have a crush on them, like, I just wanna be with them, like, I'm just a da da." I'm always like, "Hmm," like, I have a quiet crush, I kinda keep it to myself, and then if they have a crush on me, I'm like, "That's nice." Like, I'm just like I need to move very slow. I need to, like, figure out the lay of the land before I just go running. And I know that for a lot of people, that can come across like, "Oh, you don't like me," or, "Oh, you're not interested," but really that's not
Mm,
it. It's that I'm building this huge, like, shrine of love within me, but I just have to build it like one little beat at a time. And so it's like a song where I'm trying to explain that, it's not gonna be a big production, it's not gonna be fireworks, but it's gonna be a tiny garden and I'm gonna water it every single day and it is gonna grow and it's gonna feed us like forever,
mm,
you know? So that's
yeah.
kinda where that came from.
You're correct. I mean, like for me, I try not to be so abrasive. However, when you take those smaller steps, it's allowing my ability to have some comfort and some peace. And it's to value that relationship that's about to be nourished even more, even
Mhm.
more. Now, like we talked about earlier, you're coming to Nashville. I
Yes.
am so excited when you hear if you hear somebody at the highest pitch yelling, I mean, everybody's gonna be yelling, but it's at the highest pitch, it's me. Uh, tell me about this tour coming up or that you're on with, Tank and the Bangas. Tell me all about that.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited for it because we both came up through poetry. And so we have a lot in common in that way. And I love her live show. It's incredible. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but it's
Mhm.
like a party and she infuses everyone with like this joyful energy. It's powerful. So we just had an idea like a lot of times as an independent artist, you'll go to like the major markets, New York, LA. I'm from Chicago. I play here a lot, but there's other cities that I've only gotten to go to like once or like I've never
Mhm.
gotten to go to. And so what if we combine forces and go to these cities like in the Midwest and the East and Southeast? And so I'm just really excited to put a beautiful show together. It's called The Flow of Things because Tank thinks of, her space in between poetry and music is like her flow, and I'm obsessed with water. So we're gonna put those things together and just have it be I think it's gonna be like an emotional journey that like your soul has always wanted. I think it's gonna be great.
I'm excited for it. I had her on, I think the first I think, like, the first episode was probably with her. I think that's what I'm if I'm
Mm.
correct, because she came to Nashville and she did a show here, and she is she is also another person I'm just like, "Can you just keep talking? I don't need to talk. I understand it's my show, but forget it. Let's just be your show." And you're the same way, so I'm really excited to see both energies coming together. What do you hope that listeners, because now you're gonna be into spaces you've never been before, I said, what do
Mhm.
you hope people learn from you or take away from you if they're just now learning you or discovering you?
Mm. I really hope that my music is a way to allow people to tap into their emotions, maybe emotions that might be uncomfortable or suppressed or that they might feel ashamed of, and just kind of be able to look at yourself in a vulnerable way, and love what you see. That's really what I hope.
Come on, love what you see. Are you nervous at all being in spaces that you're not been to before? Does that make you nervous?
um, Not because I'm like, whenever I do something with other people, I'm like 99% less nervous. I don't know. It's just maybe it's a Libra thing, but when I'm in relationship with people, we're moving as a crew, I don't feel so nervous. Even if one person came, I'd be like,
Mhm.
"You're gonna get a great show." But, but I think that, I'm excited to just, like, feel out the energy of all the cities I've never been because. I love when I get to return to cities and, like, I know, like, certain things about certain cities, and I'm always
Yeah.
happy when, like, I get to, like, know that, so I'm very excited to see all the first impressions that I get and to meet people after. I'm glad we're in a space now where it's not so, there's a while where it was all like, I didn't wanna meet people, and I still wanna be very COVID safe, but, I definitely, in a new place, wanna be able to actually have FaceTime with people, so I'm excited for that.
This is gonna be a weird question for you. You seem so open and so honest and transparent, not just on the surface level, but even within. Is there any part of you that you're just like, "I'm not sure I wanna say that right now. I'm not sure if this message is for them, it's for me." Is there any way that that ever happens to you?
Yeah, I think sometimes. I think I definitely had a moment, in the pandemic when I stopped teaching as much. I noticed, also an older sibling. I'm the oldest of four. And, when you're a teacher, the teacher doesn't usually come to class like, "Oh my God, guys, like I had a terrible breakup. Like I'm feeling all these things." Like, there's like a certain level of like, you don't talk about certain things. And so when I was just sitting in the house myself and thinking what I wanted to write about, I think I went to a more vulnerable place. I went to some of those places that I usually don't. So I think my last album has taught me, to be a bit more open. And I think that has been healing in many ways because I was noticing that, when you become an artist, you know, you don't really understand how you kind of become an idea of yourself. Like we were talking about Erica Badu, but I don't know her. Like I've never met her. All I know is like the projection of her through her art. And so
Mhm.
I was like becoming a projection of myself, like becoming an artist and noticing the way people would think about me or speak about me. And I think I'm always trying to like expand and like show a little bit more so that that idea of me can be closer and closer to, the fullness that, that I contain. And it won't always be one to one. It won't ever really match up, but some of my friends were like, "You're kind of funny. Like we want to hear that in your album." And so there's like little interludes and stuff where I feel like it's a little more of my personality coming through. So yeah, I kind of forgot what your question was, but I think
No, you're
that
fine. You answered it. You answered it.
okay.
I think that basically, it takes time, but in time you are able to write about whatever the situation may be, and you think about it in a way of helping and healing, not for self, for others, and not just in the way of I'm gonna talk about a bad moment. I'm talking about the good moments too. I mean, friends,
Mhm.
they really showcase that there are multiple sides of you. So let the whole world see it, and they're going to see it as you're going on tour, as you got your album. Is there any more? I mean, you got the tour coming up. Are you already thinking about the next songs, the next album you want to drop?
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to like hibernating this winter and writing. I love alt rock, like emo. Like I had a really strong that was like very impactful to me like in my teens. And so I think doing some type of album that honors my love for that. And it already does show up in a lot of my music. Like I think I sample a lot of like, Incubus or like The Cure, little songs that I like, but I'd love to like do a whole album in that direction because also, Black people made rock music and
Mhm.
I feel like we don't get the chance to honor that as much as, or that's not really like talked about as much as it should be. So yeah, I'd love
It's
to do an
not.
album in that space.
Hey, it's okay. Have your emo life. I'm down for it. If you come out and you have that grungy look, I'm like, yes, let's go for it. Because there's so many different sides to not just blackness, but to us, to a black woman. So
Mhm.
showcase all sides and be aware that those sides are still makes up of you. They still make up
Yes.
you. So I'm excited. I told you when I spoke to you earlier, it throws me off that I'm talking to you because I just never thought it would happen that I'll be able to actually speak to you and not just learn about your story some more, but gain a little more insight and wisdom for myself. Tell them
Mhm.
how they can connect with you more on social media and get more of your music.
Yes, you can connect with me on socials. It's just my name, Jamila Woods, Jamila. And I'm on Instagram. That's my main one, but I also do some interesting things on TikTok. I take my TikTok way less seriously, so it's enjoying that. Yeah, and my website, same jamilawoods.com. You can get tickets there for the show in Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all come on out, Nashville, October 31st. Come on out, the
Mhm.
Brooklyn Bowl. It's gonna be a great time. I'm gonna be there screaming to the top of my lungs. Don't judge me, judge yourself. And I am so ready for it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Ebony.